Hey guys, welcome back to the podcast. I'm your host, John Abbas. And if you've been watching these interviews and you're wondering why every single week it seems like I'm wearing a hoodie, it's not because I really want to be like Joe Rogan, although I would really love to be like Joe Rogan, but it's winter. And if I could get away with wearing a hoodie every single day, I absolutely would. But that's not what today's about. Today is about an awesome interview with an incredible guest. And if you're here for the first time, I just want to be the first to welcome you. I think you're really going to love our interview today. And I'm just very excited for you. If you do enjoy the interview, all that I ask is just hit that subscribe button so that you get a little notification every single time I release a new episode. If you've been here before, I want to welcome you back and just say thank you, for your support and your attention, whether it's been a few weeks, a few months, or even a couple of years. I appreciate you as I try to grow this channel by taking value from our incredible guests and giving it to you in a way that is helpful in your life or your business. Now, today I have an incredible guest with an even more incredible story. If you are a fan like I am of the world famous actor Bruce Willis, movies like Armageddon, Die Hard, then you are going to love my guest today. Eric Buarque not only looks exactly like Bruce Willis, but he's been his stunt double and go-to stand-in for all of his films for over the last 10 years. From Live Free or Die Hard to Death Wish, Eric travels the world filming movies and just doing really cool shit for a living. And even better, when he's not filming movies all over the world, he's just a regular guy. He runs a landscaping company in Maryland. He's a grandfather, and he's just a phenomenal human being. And what I truly love about this interview is just Eric's story. It's a story about persistence, a lot of failure, a lot of getting your hopes up just to be disappointed and picking yourself up again and continuing to keep on going and going, not giving up and believing in yourself. And I tell you, I think a lot of us are in a point in our business and our lives where we just need that inspiration from someone that has achieved success, that's doing what they love, but as a regular person that is only where they are because they kept on getting up after getting knocked down over and over and over. And even in that all is lost moment, he just continues to persist. And I was so inspired after our talk. I know that you will be too. So sit back, relax, enjoy the interview, and help me welcome Eric to the show. Eric, welcome to the podcast. Thank you so much for being here today. I'm really excited, man, for our conversation. So thank you again.
Thank you for having me, John. I appreciate it.
Absolutely. Now, to the audience listening, now, correct me if I'm wrong. Is your last name pronounced Buarque?
Correct. It's a tough one, and growing up, I heard all kinds of people pronounce it all different kinds of things. So,
gotcha. Yeah. Well, I heard somebody else pronounce that. I just wanted to make sure it was right. But to those listening, Eric Buarque is our guest today. He is a man of many talents, but most notably, he's an actor, and he's very well known for being the stunt double for Bruce Willis. And if you're watching this interview, you will absolutely know what I'm talking about. But man, I tell you, Eric, I was listening to you on another interview, and you have had a hell of a journey. Just an awesome story. It was a lot of fun listening to, and I was hoping that we could focus this interview on your story, your career, what it's like being a stunt double, and just hopefully some really cool, fun stories and some words of wisdom for our audience today, if you don't mind.
Absolutely. Yeah. Appreciate it again for you having me on. Yep. Absolutely.
So can we start a little bit with like your backstory, your early backstory? Like, did you always want to be an actor since you were little, or like when did this path even start?
I mean, for me, I never wanted to be an actor. Didn't really give it any kind of thought until people started telling me probably about 20 plus years ago that I resemble Bruce Willis. So that's kind of really what got me going with the whole thing. I was always a big fan of Bruce. I love the Die Hard films, and just liked his he's always got pretty much the same character in most of his movies, tough guy and good looking dude, what have you. But yeah, so I was always a big fan of his. But it started, like I said, probably about 98, 99. People just started telling me, dude, you look like Bruce. So it was like, just it kind of started with maybe a couple people here or there, and then it turned into everywhere I went, people were making comments about it. So
that's wild. And I'm excited to dive into this because, back then, we're talking the late 90s, there wasn't social media. It's not like Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson, that police officer, I don't know if you read that, like that police officer that looked just like him. Somebody took a picture, made a post, The Rock found it, and they ended up getting together. Like, they didn't have that back then. So I'm excited to go from how you went from, hey, everybody thinks I look like Bruce Willis, to actually being the guy. So like, everybody's saying you look like Bruce Willis. So did that make you want to start taking acting lessons? Like, what was your next steps?
I mean, it was crazy. I mean, I think the first time I really heard it, I was kind of standing outside of a 7-Eleven. I can't remember what company I was working for at the time, but I kind of had one of those wife beater type t-shirts on that I would never wear today, but I had one on then. And that's really like the first comment that I heard. Some guy came out and he said, I was kind of leaning on this car or truck, I can't remember what it was, but just kind of leaning there waiting for my co-worker to come out the store. And he said, man, you're not gonna blow the store up, are you? I said, man, what are you talking? Dude, you look like John McClane. So that kind of, like I said, that hearing that over and over and over, it started kind of like kind of fueling the desire. Again, I never had any acting lessons, didn't really want to be an actor.
Yeah.
But the more I started paying attention to what Bruce looked like, and he and I kind of went bald at the same time, so that worked out good for me. But yeah, it just kind of started becoming a passion. I mean, like something I really, it became a desire, and then it became a dream for me. So
that's awesome. Now, what were you doing actually for work at this time? Like, did you have a whole other career path?
Oh yeah, I'm a landscaper. I've been in that field for 30 years.
Wow.
College educated and run my own business for 26 years this year. So yeah, I mean, I work with my hands. I'm outdoors. That's real life for me when I'm not working on a set. So
that's so cool. So how did you end up getting your first gig or introduction into the world of the show business?
Well, again, like you said earlier, the social media, I wish I'd had that 20 some odd years ago, because it was difficult. I mean, being here in Maryland, there's not a big industry. There's not a big film industry here. There were a couple of good shows back in the day. HBO's The Wire, and there was one other one, I can't think of it offhand, that one of those police type shows. And then occasionally a couple of movies would come to town. But so there really wasn't, like I got in the Yellow Pages, and for the younger viewers out there, or people that are listening, we had phone books back then, and that's how we found our names and addresses and telephone numbers and all that kind of stuff. So yeah, I just kind of like looked in the phone book, and there may have been like one page of a couple of modeling agencies, and maybe a casting director or two. So I was kind of fortunate, because the guy that lived next door to me at the time, he was a photographer for the government. Oh, wow. So I think he may have made a couple of comments about the resemblance to Bruce. So one day he said, why don't you come on down to my studio and we'll shoot all your stuff for nothing. So I said, well, that works for me, because I didn't have any money at the time. So I went down and got a couple of headshots made up, 8x10s. And again, I really didn't know who to send them to. So I just kind of got in this phone book and found the modeling agency. And then I found this casting director. She's still in business today, Pat Moran. She's
Oh,
She's
wow.
pretty huge here in Baltimore. Again, she's a Homicide. That was the other show I was trying to.
Okay. Yep. Yep.
It just came to me, but those were excellent, shows back in the day. And so I sent them an 8x10. I sent this modeling agency a photo, and I mean, I think maybe a year went by, and then I finally got a call from the modeling agency. So the girl on the other end, she said, "Oh my God, where are you? You know, your resemblance to Bruce is uncanny, and we'd like to get you in," and blah blah blah. And I think half of what she was saying was truth. The other half of it, she was blowing smoke.
Yep.
But I was so excited to finally get somebody to kind of, recognize the resemblance. And she ended up setting up an audition for me for the film Unbreakable. So that was kind of my first taste of the whole acting world and business. And that's another story we can get into if you
Yeah,
want to.
I want to, because listening to you speak, there's a tremendous amount of journey in where you are today. Like a lot of misfires, a lot of rejection, a massive amount of like, I'm going to give this whole thing up. And I think the value in this interview is those lessons there, right? Like, I think everybody in their journey wants to give up along the way, especially, oh my God, especially in an uncertain industry like show business, where the odds are so difficult, the rejection is so great. And so I was so inspired by your story. And I just thought it would be great just to focus on the whole story, like how you almost got there, almost got there, almost got there. So yeah, please, let's talk about Unbreakable, because I remember that being like a disappointment, if I remember correctly.
Yeah, and to piggyback on what you just said, that I'm happy, and that makes me happy to know that it inspired somebody, because I feel like, I mean, what I've been through in the last 20 years, I mean, yeah, there's definitely, like you said, a lot of lessons, life lessons. And I'm just hoping to inspire others,
Mm-hmm.
if I can tell my story. But yeah, I mean, it wasn't, I didn't, again, I kind of came into this whole acting business blind. I had no clue I didn't have an agent. I didn't have anybody working for me. I always did my own footwork. And the more I kind of got rolling with it, the more I started realizing that I really did have a God-given gift. I mean, I had nothing to do with this, you know what I'm saying? So
Absolutely.
other than the shaving the head part, but I mean, I'm just fortunate that I feel like the Lord has given me the opportunity to do what I've done. And it started out as a dream for me, and it ended up turning out to be so much more than I ever thought it would be.
Wow.
But yeah, man, it was a struggle at times. I mean, my wife can tell you, other people that are close to me can tell you that, I had the first taste of the rejection was Unbreakable. So I went with this girl. I can't even remember her name. It's been 20 something years ago, but she took me up to Philly for this audition. And, I was just going because I thought I was going to get the part as Bruce Willis's double or stand-in at the time.
Yep.
But I had no idea that they were going to, like, when I got there, and let me back up just a second. When I got to the office, there was probably 15 to 20 people there that were in this casting director's office. Ooh. That were going back for different parts of this movie to audition. So I was already nervous. I got in, I sat down, I kind of, buried my head in my hands and was kind of like trying to avoid eye contact with people because I was nervous, and they kept, people just kept staring at me, looking. And then one guy, he just got up. He said, "Look, man, I don't mean to keep staring at you." He said, "But your profile is like spot on to Bruce's." He said, the lady that you're here to see, it was a casting agency. I think it was called Mike Lemon Casting, and they were in Philadelphia. And so he said, "The lady you're here to see," he said, I'm good friends with her, and I do voiceover work for her, and so I do a lot of work with her. He said, but I got an idea for you and I. He said, here's my card. I got an idea to do a commercial with you. So I was thinking, oh man, that sounds cool. So that, I was kind of happy about that, but yet I was still thinking about now she's, they're going to come out and call my name, and then I got to go in and let them either look at me or whatever they want to do. So the lady comes out, she calls me back. I go back, she got a camera set up, and I was like thinking, like, what is this? I thought you just wanted to look at me, just to see if I resemble Bruce. And then she hands me a script, and I'm like, oh man. And it was only a couple of lines, but I mean, I was so nervous. I read what I had to read and sat there for a minute, and she said, all right, you can go now. And I was like, okay, that's it. You don't want to, there's nothing more. You don't have anything else to say? And she's, no, if we're interested, we'll contact you. So I said, oh, okay. All right, cool. So I left. A couple of months went by, never heard anything. They got into the production, didn't choose me. And so that was kind of like the first taste of the rejection and having my feelings hurt and, being passed over. And that wouldn't be the first time. So.
Yeah. So you've gone through a lot more of it. Like, do you have like a different perspective on how to deal with it at this point? Like, cause a lot of people are at right now where you were after that first rejection, right? It's still kind of new to them, and they internalize it, and they think there's something wrong with them, and they think, and they take it absolutely personal. And, it seems like you might've done that first go around. So what was like, how did you feel at that first time? But like, how do you feel now about it, knowing what you know at this point?
Well, again, that wasn't my first taste of it. And then the funny thing was, that was like the first, well, I wasn't on a film set, but that was the first audition I had. And then I got a call from Pat Moran. So she calls, or not she, but one of the agents, they call and they want me to do some background acting on a, first thing I did was an HBO film called A Shot in the Heart, and a couple of pretty well-known actors, Giovanni Ribisi.
Yeah.
Heck of an actor. I think I'm pronouncing the other guy's name, Elias Koteas or something. He was in a Arnold Schwarzenegger movie. So anyway, my first time on a set was as an extra, and I was kind of like a bar patron, and it was a throwback to the 70s. And so they placed me between these two guys, and I really didn't know who they were. I mean, they weren't familiar to me. So I just kind of sat there and just kind of tried to take in the whole experience about how production works and all the moving parts, and I never forget, I had to go to the bathroom on set, and I didn't tell anybody. So I got up and I went around and found my way to the bathroom. And when I came back, the first AD, he looked at me and said, don't ever get up again without telling somebody where you're going. So I was like, oh man, all right, cool. So but it gave me like my first taste of how a movie's shot, how the actors work, and so on. So then I started getting these calls for these different background shows like HBO's The Wire. They called
great show.
Excellent show. And I worked on the second season. They always had me as a cop. So,
figures. You do look like a cop or a drill sergeant for sure.
Always had me coming in, which I thought that was kind of cool. And then I did get to play a longshoreman a couple of episodes also. But the more I worked, the more I became familiar with how they do things on the set. And then the funny thing is each time I would get on these sets, one of the actors or a director or somebody would always say, man, you look like Bruce Willis, man. You need to be doing something with him. You don't need to be here with us. So that I started, well, I was hoping that somebody would kind of step up and connect me, because again, with social media now, you can find out anything about anybody anytime you want. But
right.
back then, it was difficult. And what I learned, and it's kind of unfortunate, it's kind of sad, but it's the way of some, not everybody's that way, but the way of the industry, or it can be in any industry, is if you don't have anything to offer people, they really don't want anything to do with you. And so I'm just the opposite. If I can help somebody get to the next level, that makes me happy. You know what I'm saying? And I don't want anything out of it, just to see them move on. So, but anyway, again, I know I'm kind of rambling, but
no, it's okay.
Trying to give you a little backstory. So I did the HBO's The Wire, a couple of episodes, and then Ladder 49. That
big movie.
Huge movie, right? Filmed entirely in Baltimore City. And, I got to work 3 or 4 days on that show, and it was awesome. And again, they put me, I'll never forget, I was in a wedding reception scene as an extra. And, I had just finished seeing Gladiator with Joaquin Phoenix. That was in the theater, and I still had his face in my mind. And I'll never forget, like a couple of days after seeing the movie, he showed up, and I still kind of was like mad at him for that, the role that he played, in the Gladiator film. So I was like looking at him, but then I was excited. And so it was cool to be near him and Robert Patrick and John Travolta and Morris Chestnut and all these big names. And then they placed me for the scene. They placed me at a table with John Travolta and Robert Patrick. So that was cool. I'm kind of sitting there. I was actually sitting there eyeballing John the whole time, thinking, I was a huge fan of his. I mean, Grease and Welcome Back, Kotter, all these shows that I saw as a kid. I was like, I just couldn't get over. I was sitting close to him like that. And then Robert Patrick from the Terminator films. And I'll never forget Robert looking over at John and saying, "John, look at this guy, man. He looks just like Bruce Willis. Look at him." So I'm kind of shy. So I was kind of like looking around like, oh man. But then the buzz got around the set. We got Bruce here. Bruce is here with us. So it was really cool. And then, I was hoping to make get some type of connection with somebody there on set. But I mean, it was kind of a lot of that. Every set I worked, I was hoping to just get this connection, and it never happened.
Right.
So then fast forward to 2004, I used to get this Hollywood Reporter. I would go up to the bookstore, buy this Hollywood Reporter, and try to find out what Bruce was doing. See what movies he had coming up. So I'll never forget this film called Hostage.
Yep.
And so I was like, all right, cool. Well, I got some 8x10s, mailed them out to the production. I would always try to do my homework as to who the casting director was, who's directing, and then try to find out who to get the pictures to. And so sent them out there, and I got a call from this casting director. And I think it was Vicky Burrows Casting out of LA. She's pretty big out there. I won't mention the guy's name that I was dealing with, but because I kind of had to diss him a little bit. So anyway, I ended up, they asked me, come on out. We'd like to meet up with you. The production's interested in you. So I flew out on my own dime, got out to LA, called the agent, and I said, "Hey man, I'm in town." And he said, "Well, they're not going to be able to meet with you today." And I was like, "Now this is the part where, if I can share with people, don't be disrespectful, but you gotta keep knocking, and I was never disrespectful. I wasn't underhanded. I did everything which I felt like, I felt like I did it the right way, but you gotta keep knocking. And, a lot of times the door would open and it would close on me. And the auditions I was telling you about that I got. So there was times where I was ready to, I felt like I wanted to give up. I felt like I got close. And then again, like I said, I flew out here. This guy tells me, yeah, they're not going to be able to meet with you. And I'm like, well, what do you mean? He said, dude, they're not going to be able to meet with you. You don't want to piss them off because then you won't get the part. And I was like, okay. So I hung the phone up with him. I said, I don't need this guy. I'm going to go over to the production studio myself. So didn't have GPS, kind of had to stop on the street, say, hey, can you tell me where Raleigh Studios, and eventually I found my way over to the studio. And so I get there and, they have a guard shack. So you can't just walk into this place. You got to have an invite or you got to be on the list or whatever. And so I get over and I walk up to the guy and I said, he said, who are you here to see? I said, I'm here to see, I acted like I had an appointment, which I did, so I get there and I, tell the guy who I'm there to see. And he said, hang on, let me call up there and see if they'll see you. So while I was waiting for an answer, these guys that were working on these sets, they were looking over at me and they were going, hey, Bruce. So I was thinking, I'm gonna get in here.
Yeah,
today.
like, hey,
it's gonna happen. I think I actually gave one of them a wave. But so he calls up, they were like, yeah, send him up. So I walk in, he said, go up to the second floor, go to the left, and you'll see the office. And so I got upstairs and walked into the production office, and they actually had my 8x10 on the bulletin board next to Bruce's.
Oh, that's cool.
So I thought that was pretty cool. And then so I met, the second AD, and he and I walk out into the hallway and introduced me to the director and a couple other people on staff. And then he started laying out, yeah, man, we're going to shoot XYZ and Simi Valley, and we'll be over here for a few days in this area. And he said, just give me a call tomorrow and we'll set your schedule up and get you going. And so I was thinking, man, this is off the hook. I feel like I finally made it. And kind of a cool thing was that was my birthday that day that I showed up. So that was pretty neat. And then the coolest thing was as he and I were talking, I heard somebody get off the elevator. And I saw this profile come, get off the elevator and I looked down the hallway and I looked back at the AD and I said, Bruce is here. And Bruce showed up. So that I almost fainted when that happened because I don't think anybody thought he was going to be there that day.
Yeah,
so
that's.
He comes down the hallway and he looks at the one guy and then he looked at me and he's real cool. Hey, how you doing? Shakes my hand and he kept going. So the second AD looks at me and he's looking at me like, dude, what are the chances you show up? He shows up. And this
on your birthday.
On my birthday. This is weird. This is crazy. So anyway, I left and went back to my hotel and called the guy the next day. And he said, man, listen, I hate to break the news to you. I said, well, what news? He said, the director that you met, he's going to go with his guy. And I said, well, I thought I had the job. And he said, yeah. He said, I don't understand it, man. The guy that he's hiring is a friend of his. He doesn't look a thing like Bruce. And I said, you got to be kidding me. So that's when I said, I felt like that was the moment I was ready to like throw the towel in. And I got
that was low point.
Got on the plane, came back home.
Oh,
and for 2 years, it just kept running over in my mind that what did I do wrong? What could I have done wrong? I felt like I had this look, and other people around me were like, well, you may as well give up, man. I mean, listen, you got close, you've done a bunch of background, you've done some lookalike gigs. That's another thing. I used to do these, get hired from different companies as entertainment.
Yeah.
To be a Bruce Willis lookalike. And I mean, it was cool, but it wasn't what I wanted to do. So anyway, 2 years, it tore me up. And then again, I felt like I'm like, man, screw this stuff. I'm done with it. I'm fed up with it. And then I took all my magazines without threw all that stuff away. I'm like, I'm done. And then maybe the next day or two, we get, wife and I, we go out to the mall or to a restaurant, and 5-10 people would stop me. Anybody ever told you you look like? So it just kind of like started like fanning the flames again. And it just started building in me again. And I'm like, you know what? I'm not giving up. Not going to do it. So fast forward to 2006. I'm looking at, I may have been online then. I think I had internet access then. So I'm checking Bruce out to see what he's got going on, and then I see Die Hard 4, and I'm like, oh my God, that's bigger than Hostage. This is the one I'd like to get on. So I found out the first week they're filming here in Baltimore City, and I'm like, oh man, that's right in my backyard. So I by then I think I learned how to scan a photo and have it saved on so I could shoot it out to whoever. So I saw a casting notice. They were looking for a Bruce Willis photo double stand-in. So I shot my picture, shot a little email to it, attached to it, and within 20, 25, 30 minutes I got a call. Where are you? And I said, I'm so-and-so. And they were like, well, can you get here? We want to look at you. So, it actually happened to be right near BWI. They had a big lot that was kind of cordoned off. And that's where they had all their production and, all the police cars and, all the stuff was going down on this one street up there near the airport. So anyway, I get there and I'm like looking around, and there was like 2 or 3 other bald-headed guys, and I'm like, oh man, here we go. Here we go. And I was looking at the first guy thinking, well, he's too tall, he's not going to get it. And the other guy, he doesn't look a thing like Bruce. So the cool thing was the first AD on Hostage was on Live Free or Die Hard. And when he looked at me, he said, we never forgot you, man. We never forgot you. And then I got to, they asked me to go over into wardrobe, get fitted for what Bruce was going to wear. And the director wanted to see me and the clothes that Bruce was going to wear. And so I get fitted, and then Bruce's wardrobe, her name's Laurie, and I've known her for years now. And I said, well, what about these other guys? And she looked at me and she said, sweetheart, you're getting this job, not them. So that was
I love that, man.
Finally, after all those years, but it didn't really hit me until we started filming. And my mom, she's passed on now, but she was always a big fan of mine, and she really got a kick out of me. I think these cards were called comp cards, and I had these photos and measurements and all that. But I gave her like a couple of them, and she would always, wherever she went, she would brag, my son, and this is my son, and he's Bruce Willis lookalike, blah blah blah. And so anyway, she had passed away in 2004. And then in 2006, I finally got my big break with Bruce on Live Free or Die Hard. But I'll never forget, it really hit me. I don't know if you remember the movie, but there's a scene where Bruce and Justin Long, he's a computer
Yes.
hack kid.
Yep.
So, Bruce is trying to get him out of danger. The terrorists are after him, and they get jammed up in an intersection in Baltimore City, which they made look like DC. They were supposed to be in DC. So they're jammed up in traffic. There's an accident that happens in front of Bruce's police car, and he's got to jump out of the driver's seat, jump out. He jumps on top of the hood, gets on top of the roof of the car. And I mean, it was so real. So I had to do all the rehearsal and of course, all the stand-in work before he started. And then a lot of times he would kind of sit back and watch a monitor or watch me do the rehearsal just to kind of get an idea of what it is he'll look like or what the scene will look like. Mm-hmm. But I'll never forget, man, that was like that was like probably one of the highlights of my career was standing on top of that police car. And I mean, the place was going bananas because everybody was there to watch Bruce film. Each corner, it was I think it was about lunchtime when we filmed that scene. Yeah. But people hanging out of the buildings, they were taking pictures. The news cameras were there. But I just remember looking over top of everybody's, all these people that were standing on and just thinking about how happy my mom would have been, and to just kind of feeling kind of victorious that I finally made it.
That's
after
awesome.
All that grinding and,
yeah.
So
it's always like that, right? Like it's never just a straight line. It's lots of curves. And so you have, like, fast forwarding a little bit, like you have continued to work with Bruce on numerous films. Is that right?
Yeah. Yes, that's correct.
Awesome. Like, do you know him like personally? Like, do you guys talk? Like, how's the relationship there?
I mean, I've done, I think 14 or 15 films now with him.
Oh my, really?
Yeah. And I mean, it, like I said, and numerous commercials. I mean, I've been, again, I just wanted to get my feet wet with him, just work as a stand-in or photo double for him on a film. And, what I was telling you when we first started talking, I mean, it's been a tremendous blessing. Again, my faith is a big part of my life. And I mean, it was a lot of this stuff, like you said, a lot of close calls, but I had to persevere. I had to have some toughness, some grit, and, just keep pushing. But yeah. It's turned into be so much more. I mean, I've been all over the world. I've been to Rome. I've been to Spain, Canada. I just got back from Mexico back in May or June of this year. I've been all over the country filming with him. So it's been a good ride, man.
Yeah. So like, I have a couple, like, what do you love most about show business? Like, what's like your favorite? Is it the travel, the relationships? Is it the storytelling aspect? Like, what do you love more than anything else?
I mean, one of the things that I take out of all these like places that I've been, all these states, all these cities, I've been in the big cities. I've been in the small towns like Fitzgerald. My buddy Alex came.
Alex, man, what a great guy. And by the way, those listening, Alex is a producer. He introduced me to Eric, gracious enough to do that on a film that you were just recently a part of, right? Deadlock?
Correct.
Yeah, love the movie. Watched it with my family last weekend. I recommend everybody check out that film. Just incredible guy, man. So just, yeah, sorry to change the subject there, but just great group of people. Nothing gets me more excited than talking with people with like you, right? Like just passion, that love what they do. They're grateful for what they do. Like, we have a lot of successful people on this podcast that have made hundreds of millions of dollars, but man, there's just something about talking to someone that loves what they do that's so different than talking to someone that's just successful at what they do. It's just a different conversation, man. I love it.
I mean, like I said, just to be able to, when this is all said and done with me, the thing that really, um, I mean, really means a lot to me is these relationships.
Mm.
I mean, we're kind of like a traveling circus. So we come in, you know, Bruce's team, people are like, they're nervous, they're intimidated. We come in, we do our thing, and it's really changed over the years for me, because nowadays, Bruce comes in for a couple of days, knocks his stuff out the park, and then he leaves, and then they leave me to be him for the rest of the movie. So that's been, I went from just doing like the stand-in,
Yeah.
maybe an occasional photo double shot, to now, if you see Deadlock, I mean, you'll see some stuff that's, you know what I'm saying? You'll see.
You're more Bruce Willis than Bruce Willis is in his movies.
My wife and I watched, and I was like, "Oh my God, pause!" I mean, it's not the first time, but they keep a lot of frontal shots of me, and yes, the wide, but some up close stuff, and I'm grateful, man. I'm just really, really grateful that I've had the opportunity to work. And then again, like I said, we travel to all these different towns, but that small town in Georgia, those people are like family to me. Alex, Brittany,
Yep.
whole production team that he's got down there. I mean, to this day, I met them back in 2019 on a film called Breach. And I mean, we just connected, and we've been together. We've done 4 or 5 films together now, and it's awesome.
So awesome. So I have a couple straggler questions. My first question is, and I was wondering this about like Bruce Willis himself, is like, why, like I've seen him make a big transition into like a lot smaller budget films. And I know a lot of actors do this, whether it's passion, but I was just wondering, like, if you know why, like, why is he focused so much more on these like little indie independent films? Like, is there a reason for that, or do you have like no idea?
I mean, to be honest with you, yeah, I don't have an idea. Other than, I mean, there's a lot of opportunity. I mean, it seems that this has been the busiest year I've ever had in my life with them. I mean, so it's like one after another sometimes I don't even know what day it is, what time it is, because I've traveled so much this year. I mean, but I mean, I think it's maybe, I don't know if it's, at where he's at in his career or whatever, but I'm just happy to be along for the ride.
Absolutely. Now I have another question, because I was not sure of this, and I was hoping maybe you can enlighten me. Like, I always thought that stunt doubles were there to do the more risky, dangerous things, to get hurt instead of like the star. Like, am I wrong, or like what's kind of like your role as a stunt, or like any stunt double? Like, what's like the main function, the purpose?
Well, there's the stunt guy, and then there's me. So I'm actually I've done a couple of small things for him.
Yeah.
Running in front of a bus that was probably going 10 miles an hour, or just minor stuff. Now the other stuff, the stunt guy handles all the dangerous stuff, jumping out of a building into a swimming pool, or any of the anything that's dangerous. I don't have any background in that part of the field, but the photo doubling, all the I've studied him some. I've been with him so long. I mean, I have the mannerism. The only thing that I don't have his accent. So, but when I get into character and I get that outfit on and whatever it is we're doing, it's time to rock and roll. And I mean, it freaks a lot of people out, because we just finished up something in New Mexico about a month ago. And I mean, I'll get there before he gets there a lot of times. And so we shot the first day before Bruce got in, and I mean, there was people all over the place. The news showed up. People were out. I mean, hundreds of people are out there taking pictures. So they all think it's Bruce. So I let them think what they want. I don't sign any autographs or anything like that. If you want to take a picture, we take a picture. if it makes them happy, I'm happy to take a picture. But so the news showed up, and the next day on the set, one of the girls on the set, she comes up, she says, "Hey, you're in the newspaper." And I said, "I am?" And she said, "Yeah, you're in the newspaper. Hold on." Of course, it's all online. I was waiting for her to give me like a hard copy, but so I looked at it, and yeah, there was the news camera was kind of mixed in with this whole crowd, and they shot these nice looking professional pictures. And so, I don't know where I was going with that story, but that's kind of what we get.
Absolutely, man. I think it would be hilarious if like I mistaked you for Bruce. I'm like, let me get your autograph, and then you sign like my little paper, and I get home and I'm like, Eric Buarque, what the hell is this? I think that would be hilarious. So I just have a couple quick questions before we wrap up. My first question is to everybody that's listening that is striving for success in whatever they do, because man, there's a really couple close calls with you. Like I can't imagine how your life would be if you had come back from either The Ladder 49 or the other film where you thought you had it and you didn't, and you just gave up. You're just like, fuck this, like I'm done.
Yeah.
Like all of the things that you're doing right now would have never transpired. And so my question is like, what advice would you give people that are listening that are doing something hard, or they're in an industry, any industry where success is like 1%, but they want it really bad? Like what advice would you give, like mindset wise, action wise? Like what would be just your best wisdom that you would pass on to them?
I mean, again, like for me, whatever it is that you aspire to do, I mean, whatever your passion, whatever your dream is, keep grinding. I mean, you're gonna have tough times. You're gonna have, times when you feel like a failure, or people may hate on you and call you all kinds of names, or you feel like I mean, you just got to keep grinding. I mean, because if you give up, you'll never know. But you just got to keep pushing, and I didn't feel that way at first, but I mean, eventually that
Absolutely.
became who I am, and I'm glad I didn't give up, because I mean, it all worked out. So.
Yeah, I had a mentor of mine. He said something to me that really stuck with me for many, many years. He's just like, in anything that you do, usually 95% of your success or income will come in your last 5% of effort. Like Michael Jordan, like they see all the money that he's made, but he's made more in the last year than he's made in his first 20 years, like, and, people don't realize that like, the success that you see is usually their last 5%. And it's that 95% that they had to put in, and they weren't getting anything out. And, you hit the nail on the head there. My very last question, Eric, is just, who is Eric outside of, Bruce Willis's stunt double? Like, when you sent me your bio, you're a grandfather, you're a father. Just tell everybody like the quick 1 minute, like who you are outside of acting and being a stunt double.
I'm just a normal guy like anybody else, man. Like I said, I run a lawn business. So I'm out there. That's where I'm happy. That's me. I'm married. I have 2 beautiful daughters, 5 grandkids, and I just that's me. I love my family. The people that are close to me, that are good friends. I like to laugh. I love football. That's one of my passions.
Baltimore?
I used to be a Redskin fan. Now they're the Washington football team, but that's another story. So, but I love the game. I love the game. I play drums. I'm an old 80s rocker. That's probably why I don't have any hair left. All the hairspray I used back in the 80s. So.
That's hilarious.
But it all worked out. So that's pretty much who I am.
That's awesome. I just had a funny thought. Like I was just like, man, if I were you and I was doing like a lawn business, I would like name my company like Lawn Free or Die Hard, and just see if anybody like gets the joke.
Well, I actually call it Celebrity Lawn Care. And
I love it.
When I'm not filming with Bruce, I'm mowing lawns. So that's what I call it. So,
man,
you know, people get a kick out of it, and they love the that I do what I do, and I'm happy to share with whoever, man. I feel blessed, fortunate. And again, you know, if I can inspire anybody, I don't care whether you want to play football, basketball, or be an astronaut or whatever it is you aspire to do, keep grinding, don't give up, and eventually things will work out. So
I love it, man.
People don't see the journey. They see, you know, when we show up to and I'll let you go over it, they don't see what it is I went through, and the feelings and the thoughts, and you know, all the different again, the rejection, everything that went along with you know, that has been a part of the journey. They see where I am now. You know, if I'm sitting in the director's chair or whatever, I'm just a normal person, but I had to go through this process to get to where I'm at today. So
that's awesome. Eric, you're going to inspire a lot of people with this interview. It's been an absolute pleasure. Is there a place where where people can connect with you? If somebody listens to this episode and they're like, holy shit, this is awesome, I would love to just say thank you and connect with you and say hi. Is there like a better place to do that? A social media that you focus on?
And I'm on Instagram. I kind of had to go private. So, I mean, I started getting a bunch of, you know, you get all kinds of weirdness, you know, people are stalking or whatever, but, I mean, so I'm on Instagram, Bruce Willis Double, and then I'm on Facebook, and then my email, you know.
Gotcha. I won't share that, but I'll definitely post your Instagram.
Yeah.
I can only imagine some of the crazy shit you get on social media. Like, I can only imagine.
Story.
Yeah, exactly. That's for round 2 interviews.
You always have haters out there, man. So it's part of the game. So don't hate me. You know
I love it.
So it is good.
I love it. Well, thank you so much for your time. Absolutely.
Yeah, John, thanks for having me, brother.
Absolutely.
It,